Hi, I'm Paul from Telecoms Cloud. In this how-to episode, we'll be going over some of the fundamentals of the Telecoms Cloud API to get you up and running and communicating with the service. You can use the Telecoms Cloud API from any platform you like using HTTP and basic authentication, but in this example we'll be giving you some very basic sample scripts to get you started using PHP in a Linux environment. So here we are. We'll start out by getting your system prepped for use with the Telecoms Cloud API and making sure it meets the minimum requirements. So you've got to be running at least PHP 5.4 to use the client that we provide. We'll be installing that client, which is hosted on Github. We'll install Composer and run install, and then we'll configure our API access credentials so that we can talk to the service. We'll instantiate a Telecoms Cloud API client, and finally we'll interact with the API to confirm the connection and authentication is working okay. Throughout this example, I'll be using the Sublime text editor and the Sublime Code Intel plugin. The Sublime text editor is free of charge to download, so if you've not already got another IDE installed on your system that you use, head over to sublimetext.com and download this. And of course, if you like it, you can also consider buying it to support its developers. The Sublime Code Intel plugin that makes things even easier by auto-completing as I type. So let's get started. I've set up, as you'll see in my sandbox, a separate subdirectory called TC API for me to play around with the Telecoms Cloud API. So the first thing we're going to do is just double check that the system is running the correct version of PHP. So to do that, I'm going to create a new file in here, and I'm going to just run the PHP info function to make sure that I'm running the correct version. So it's just PHP info, like that. I'll save that file and I'll call it phpinfo.php. If I now go to my web browser and type in phpinfo.php, you'll see there that's all good. I'm running version 5.5, which is more than 5.4, so we're good to go. So the first step is to ensure that we have Git installed on our system. So go back to the shell prompt, and I'll type in sudo apt-get update, which will just ensure that all my package lists are up to date. They should be, because I did it a minute ago. And then type in sudo apt-get install git. And I already have it installed, so I'm good to go. So the next thing I'll need to do is make sure that I'm in the correct working directory. So I'll just change directory into there. There we are, into the TC API. Now we need to clone the repository from GitHub. You'll see this is our page here on GitHub where the repository is made available. You can download it from here, or you can just do it straight within your shell prompt. So I'll type in git clone and then the address. And that's cloning the package in there, and you'll see inside Sublime here that has appeared as well. Excellent. So now I just need to make sure that I change directory again. In fact, if I list the contents there, you'll see the new directory that's appeared. So I'll change into that directory. And now I need to install Composer. So once again, sudo get composer.org/installer pipe to PHP. And that's downloaded and installed Composer there. So the last thing to do is install the client's dependencies. So I run composer install, and we're all good to go now. So as new versions of the PHP client are released, you can run git pull from here and then rerun the composer install to take advantage of any new API features within the client. Of course, you don't need to do that if you're not using the client, but if you're using the client to make things a bit easier, then that's the way to do that. So the next thing I need to do is insert my API access keys, which I've already gone and generated from my account at www.telecomscloud.com. Click on my account and then my API access is inside there. I'll just mention at this point that the API is available over HTTPS only for security reasons, so port 80 is intentionally unavailable and you will get no response at all if you try to access over HTTP. So what I will do here is create a directory for my test scripts. So what? Create a directory called test. Whoops, I need to sudo. And then if I list the contents again, I can see the test directory I've made there, so I'll change into that there. And if I project or refresh folders inside Sublime and then click on here, my test folder will appear, and I'm going to create a new file. So PHP file is going to start with PHP. I'm going to require the auto load, which is inside the vendor folder. I'm going to declare the base URL for the API, which is and remember it's HTTPS on the secure there. I declare my access credentials, which I've got from the website. I'm not going to type those in front of you now, so I'm going to leave those blank. So what I'm going to do with my API access credentials there is put them in a separate config file so that they could be called from anywhere within the project, and also it means they're not going to be visible on screen now. So I'll save that as test, or demo I'll call it. And then what I'm going to do is remove these two items, create a new file, paste those there, and I'm going to call that config.php. And back in my demo file, I can require the config.php file. And so the next thing I'm going to do is instantiate a Telecoms Cloud API client. I'll do that like this. So new client, and then I shall pass it the API base URL, and I shall also pass it the ID and token that I have defined elsewhere for security reasons. And then the most basic API call is the command called check, which will just check to see if we have authenticated correctly, and it'll also return my account number on the API platform to me. So we're going to use var dump to dump out to the browser the response that comes back from the API. So first of all, we'll run client, and then it's check. That's all we need to do. And I'm going to wrap that inside var dump. And there's a slight mistake in there. Correct that. And there we have it. So the API has returned this response to us. The message is OK, so that tells us that it has checked and we have connected OK to the API. And it's also returned my user ID to me, which is number 1. So that's it. You're now up and running with your API credentials and a project which is successfully talking to our API, and you can now begin working with all the other features available. So just to recap what we've done there, we've declared a dependency on the Telecoms Cloud API client for PHP using Composer. We've generated and used our API access keys on the Telecoms Cloud website already. We've instantiated a Telecoms Cloud API client, and we've then interacted with the Telecoms Cloud API to confirm connection and authentication is working okay. The client's README file, that's got additional information about the client and some other sample code, so be sure to take a look at that. If you have any trouble getting set up with your test script, or if you've got any other feedback, just get in touch with us, either via GitHub, or you can get in touch with us on Twitter. We're at Telecoms API, and don't forget to check out our YouTube channel with lots of other how-to videos on there. So, I've been Paul Freeman-Powell. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.